Good morning, Aggie. What a great day to be out and about in a beautiful forest in South Charlotte, North Carolina. What are you doing?
That's nice. That beats painting a room.
No, I love painting rooms because here's the thing about it. You carry it forward. That's like, my daughter is
Yeah.
43, and so what we did in the paintings in her room, I love to share with the grandchildren and say, this is the reason why we did this.
Yeah.
It's almost like being an author.
Right. Right. Okay, I'll try to look at it like that.
And inside your mind, you're going, hang up with this guy, man. He's weird. He's one of those weird ones.
No, no, I like the spin. I need the positive spin. That's good. That's good.
So, All the Dirty Secrets is your brand new book. What I love
Yes.
about this is that you put focus on the victim still searching for answers, because
Yeah.
when they disappear from the headlines, they
Yeah.
disappear from our lives.
Absolutely. I'll tell you when I was a cops reporter, and one of the things I did, my first job in Wilmington, North Carolina, was meet with the cold case detective and go over the cases that no one had solved. And I remember showing up at the house. This girl had been shot at a Halloween party. Lots of witnesses, but nobody came forward, type of situation. And I sat down with her family. I was very nervous. I'd never done anything like this before. And I was afraid they were going to, be offended and when I showed up. But instead, they took me in, and I spent maybe 2 hours in that living room and talking about their daughter. And it just really impressed upon me how much it affects people's lives, even years later, how they carry it with them.
Getting that close to the story, doesn't it also bother you when the photograph is put up on social media or a newspaper and people are judging the book by its cover without even knowing the person?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I think people do that because it makes them feel safe, like it couldn't happen to them, right? They're trying to find a reason why it couldn't be them that's a victim of crime. So I'm not the kind of person who drinks or goes out at night or goes to that part of town or whatever, because then they can make themselves feel safer that way.
That's so funny you bring that up, because I just did a big thing on iHeartRadio this morning about that. You can't even sit in your own living room these days with the shades pulled and feel secure. And with books like this really does, it prepares us for what's really going on out there. But at the same time, we need to find that security.
I think that's why, especially women love crime and true crime and thrillers so much, because there is a feeling that it's an unsafe world, and we kind of want to act it out in our mind, that what if scenario, from the safety of our own houses.
You talk about with the crime series and stuff like that. I mean, that has the flooded television as well as podcasting and things. And while reading All the Dirty Secrets, I sat there and thought, which one is this going to be? Is this going to be a docuseries on Netflix, or is this going to be a podcast? Because it can't just sit here as a book.
Yeah, I hope that there's talk of it becoming a streaming series, and that would be terrific if that happened.
Yeah. What does that do for you? I mean, that's turning your tools, the things that you've gone through in an everyday world, and now it's a process of really, becoming a part of people's lives.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Graduation.
Yeah.
My
Liza.
God. That's a changing point for a lot of people.
Absolutely. And Liza is one of these people who, has that crew from high school, that ride or die crew that she believes in 100% and is really loyal to, and really loyal to her high school, and can't imagine them involved in anything like what she finds out they've been involved in. So that's a huge earth-shattering moment for her.
Anytime you get water and teenagers involved, something's going to go wrong. Because I remember as a teenager up in Billings, Montana, I jumped into that Yellowstone River, and then I was taken down into the water. Changed me forever.
Yeah, and throw alcohol in the mix, and you
Yep.
really have a
Yep. So how are you able to take a book like All the Dirty Secrets and turn it into a collection of thoughts in the way of sharing the story? I mean, you've got the facts and things like that, but you still have to be a storyteller.
Yeah, that's hard. I think it's about the emotional relationships. I think people, they think they read for story, but a lot of times they really read for emotion and for relationships. And at the heart of this book are the relationships between friends, those best friends that you'll do anything for, that you think and the relationship between Liza and her teenage daughter. Mm-hmm. And any of us who have been teenagers or have teenagers know that can be a tough relationship when young people are growing up, and it's that push-pull. is that I hate you, don't leave. It's, they need you, but they also need to break away. And that's tough for parents who, oftentimes don't know just when to stop interfering, when to stop kind of poking around, and when to give their kids enough room that they make their own mistakes. So I think the relationship is what really carries along the plot, or resonates with people, even though it's a thriller and a whodunit.
But at the same time, it's one of those books where if you had a yellow highlighter, I bet you could highlight certain parts of that where you could activate it in your own personal life.
Right. Yes, I hope so.
To be in that moment, what is that like for you as the writer? Because, I mean, I know as a writer what it does to me emotionally. There are times that I have to step away from the computer screen so I can, share a couple of tears here and there.
Yeah, there are times that were deep. I mean, I wrote this during the pandemic. My kids were at home. My husband had commandeered the kitchen. Just on a personal level, I had been diagnosed with a rare genetic kidney disease. I'm doing fine, but it was a tough year, right? And so I poured a lot of that anxiety and fear into the book, not based on anything in my life, but I allowed my characters to have that kind of emotion. So it was really cathartic for me. It was actually really helpful in getting through that year.
I got to tell you, I'm so glad that you told me that this was put together during the lockdown, because during the lockdown, I was still blessed with the opportunity to talk to a lot of creative people who were basically in fear at that time because they thought their worlds were coming to an end. And I would love to be a historian that comes back and studies what creativity did during the lockdown. Because, I mean, these musicians, these actors, everybody is coming out stronger than what they once were.
Yes. I mean, I did hear from a lot of writers who said they couldn't write during the lockdown. But for me, writing became the way I coped with the lockdown. Yep. Like when there was just too much going on with my health and in the household, I would just turn to the page and put it on the page. That's a world you can control when you can't control the real world. So
are you a writer in the way if I'm holding a writing instrument in my hand, or are you using the tips of your fingers?
So I write I write a very rough draft on my laptop, maybe 15, 20,000 words. Mm-hmm. And then I print it out, and then I write by hand. I get these yellow graph paper pads. I have tons of them. And I get my colored pens and my sticky notes, and I really make a mess of it. I sit down and I write. I go through what I printed out, but then I just write by hand, filling in. It's sort of like coloring in the blanks or something. And all the real writing happens by hand.
Do you allow fermenting time? And what I mean by that is that when before I even start editing anything like that, I've got to become the reader, and then I'll become the writer again.
Yeah. So a huge part of, it's funny, people laugh at this, but a huge part of my writing is actually walking and just thinking. So I walk in the morning. I walk a couple miles every morning with my dog. There's a nearby hike and bike trail through the woods here, which is really nice. And I just think, and I kind of mull over what I need to do, and I let it kind of percolate in my head. I don't waste a lot of time. I shouldn't say it, that sounds mean, but I don't spend a lot of time writing and rewriting at the computer. I come to my writing, I sit down knowing what I want to write. Mm-hmm. And so I do that pre-work, either writing while I'm walking or gardening or doing something else, so that I'm really bursting with the story by the time I sit down.
I'm a walker as well. I call them transition walks, and there can be no digital devices. It's me and my dog, and we're walking through this forest. And you're right. It is a great place to go out there and just allow the creative universe to move through you.
Yeah, it's a real way to solve problems. I think maybe it was St. Augustine who said, "Solvitur ambulando," it is solved through walking. And it's true. If you really have an issue, it sort of unkinks itself while you're walking. And your brain is great. My brain is great. I say to my brain, okay, I've got a situation. Let's do it. And I just walk, and my brain starts cooking on that situation and I come up with answers.
So true. Now, when it came to putting, I mean, the writing instrument and stuff like that, after you've written it out, now you got to go back into the computer.
Yeah.
Do you have to compete with that hand writer versus the computer? Because when I did my last book, I write everything out, and then when I go back into the story, the two things are not the same. They're two completely different stories.
Well, I find that when I write by hand, it taps into a part of my brain that typing doesn't. Mm-hmm. It's strange. It's just a different part of your creativity. I encourage anyone who writes, who feels writer's block at the computer, to write by hand. Just give it a try and see if it doesn't do something different to your brain. And then when I type it back in, I edit it again, like I change it again, because a different part of my brain now, the more organized part, is trying to make sense of it and organize it. Whereas my handwriting work is freer and looser in a way. So it is true that the different methods activate different parts of my brain.
This is going to sound weird, but the way that you're talking about handwriting, did you study Julia Cameron, The Artist Way?
I have her book, but I have not ever done it. Do you do those pages?
I've been a part of Julia Cameron since 1994, every single book. And that handwriting and walking are so important.
Oh, really?
Yes.
That's funny.
Yeah. So when you're talking about walking and handwriting, I'm going, wait a second here.
No, I have The Artist. She wrote The Artist Way, right? Yeah. So I have that book. It seems a little intimidating every time I start to open it up. I just think, I don't know if I can master this, and I just put it away. But I always mean to. I always mean to do it.
So now, where can listeners go to find out more about you, your writing, and to give you lots of love and support? Because authors need to be recognized.
Well, I have a website, which is my full name, AggieBloomThompson.com. And I'm on Instagram and I'm on Facebook. So come and say hi, especially on Instagram. I'm happy to chat. I love to chat with readers, not just about my book, but about books in general. And anyone who's inclined to read the book and leave a review on Amazon, that would be amazing. That's a huge help to authors.
Aggie, that's the very reason why during the lockdown I took on a job at a grocery store. I was like, I needed to be with people, but now that I'm there, it's like I love listening to people because they build stories. They help authors.
Absolutely. I totally agree. You can't do it all alone in your basement. You have to get out there.
Please come back to this show anytime in the future. The door is always going to be open for you.
This was great. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, you be brilliant, okay?
I'll work on it. Thank you.